Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the suffocating shadows of the medieval world, deep into the belly of the earth, where men and sometimes children descend into tunnels barely wide enough to crawl through, holding nothing but flickering flames and a shred of hope. You crouch low, inching through a wooden shaft where the air feels as thick as soup. The dirt shifts under your boots. There's no sunlight, no breeze, no guarantee of return. Welcome to medieval mining, where your daily commute might kill you before breakfast. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lower yourself into the mine shaft on a damp rope, knotted and worn from the hands of the dozen men who went down before you. There's a moment, a single heartbeat, where your body hesitates, sensing something ancient, silent, and watching below. Then your feet hit the wooden planks, and the rope jerks loose behind you. There's no turning back. This mine is barely taller than you are kneeling. The ceiling is lined with wet stone and old wood beams, groaning softly with the pressure of centuries. Somewhere ahead, you hear the dull thud of a pickaxe, metal against stone, rhythmic and slow like a heartbeat. That sound means someone's still alive. Your torch sputters, casting flickering shadows that stretch into corners where light doesn't want to go. You cough once, twice. The air down here tastes like iron and old sweat. The deeper you go, the less it feels like earth and more like something hollowed out beneath it. No maps, no safety rails, just damp, creaking walkways and pitch-black pits that drop so far you can't hear the stone hit bottom. You squint, trying to gauge the age of this place, except it doesn't have one. These mines have been worked and reworked since your grandfather's time, maybe longer. Some shafts are rumored to be Roman, others, who knows? Historians still argue whether certain mine sites in Central Europe were even fully human in design. The workday begins before sunrise and often doesn't end until your fingers are numb. You arrive already exhausted, and every hour that passes chips a little more off your bones. There's no clock, no whistle, only the shift in your torch's shadow and the way your body starts begging you to stop. If you're lucky, today won't involve crawling through a rat-sized tunnel just to chip away at some questionable vein of lead. You'd think mining would mean gold or silver. Think again. Most medieval miners are after salt, tin, lead, or iron, none of which pay well, and most of which slowly poison your body over time. You scrape your shoulder passing another miner, and he nods at you without a word. Speaking is rare down here. Words echo too long, carry too far. And besides, what is there to say? Nice weather we're not seeing. Hope you don't die today. Your first task is hauling buckets, rocks, tools, all of it up slippery inclines where a single misstep means a broken leg, or worse, a long fall and a short prayer. You glance at the ceiling. Is that wood cracking? You're not sure. The mine is always groaning, shifting like something breathing. Some say the earth is alive, and here it certainly feels that way. There's a small shrine carved into the rock at the junction, a rusted iron cross, a dried flower, long dead, someone's way of begging protection from whatever rules these tunnels. Saints don't walk down here, but fear does, thick and silent. By mid-morning, your hands are raw. your back slick with sweat and your throat scorched from breathing stale air. There's no food break, just a swig of lukewarm beer and a mouthful of dry bread, if you remember to bring any. You lean against a beam, feeling the vibration of picks in the distance. Your torch gutted out a while ago. Now you work by memory. And then a rumble, not loud, just different. You freeze. Is it the ceiling, the wall behind you, the shaft ahead? You feel it before you hear it, a subtle rain of dust. You back away. Another miner yells, too late. A crack of timber, a fall of stone, and part of the tunnel disappears into itself. No one screams. Screaming doesn't help. You and the others rush forward, hauling timbers, calling names, hoping someone's alive under the rubble. They're not today, and still no one leaves, no one protests. You glance around and silently return to work. The mine doesn't stop, not for death, not for daylight. You crawl deeper, past the cave-in, into an older section, barely wide enough to move. You think about how this mine was dug without explosives, without machines, without any real idea what lay below. Your pickaxe strikes stone again, and this time a shard flies off and grazes your forearm. It stings, but you ignore it. There's no gauze, no salve, and absolutely no one coming to patch you up. Just blood and grit and the smell of damp rock. Your only tools down here, besides the aching muscle between your shoulder blades, are the crude implements you carry with you. A wooden shovel, a handmade hammer, a splintered pickaxe that's seen better centuries, and your hands, always your hands. They tell you the mine is a place of skill and strength. But let's be honest, it's mostly about luck and low expectations. You glance at your tools again. The pick is uneven, its edge chipped. The hammer is just a lump of iron attached to a stick that might once have been part of a fence post. You've sharpened your shovel so many times, it's become a dagger with a handle. Medieval ingenuity at its finest. Make it work or die trying. You stoop again, your back already muttering threats, and strike at the wall. Chips fly, dust rises, and a soft cloud begins to form around your head. You blink against it. The dust doesn't just sting your eyes, it coats your tongue, fills your nostrils, and sticks to the sweat on your neck like glue. It's not unusual to cough for hours after a shift, hacking up blackish grit and wondering if that's your lungs waving the white flag. The tools don't get better. The deeper the mine goes, the worse it gets. Iron corrodes in damp air, handles splinter from overuse, and replacements are few and far between. If your pick breaks, you fix it, sort of, or you start scraping with a rock until someone's finished using theirs. If you break, well, same story. You patch yourself up, tie on a dirty cloth, and keep going. And then there's the question of lighting. Ever tried working in a place so dark that the shadows seem to crawl? That's medieval mining for you. Your only source of light is a flickering tallow candle or a crude oil lamp. If you're lucky, these little flames barely pierce the black, and they often go out when you need them most. You've learned to listen more than see. A scrape here, a groan there, the shift in the air that means something's just moved, either rock or rat. You might think candles are cheap and abundant. Think again. Tallow is made from animal fat, which means someone above had to slaughter a goat, boil the fat, and mold the candle, and that someone probably didn't do it for free. You ration your candles like treasure. Burn it too fast and you'll be alone in the dark. Burn it too slow and you might not get your work done. Either way, the darkness always waits, One of your co-workers, a lad named Miko, swears by pine splinters instead. He bundles them, sets them in a holder, and lights the tip. Works fine until the shaft gets smoky, and suddenly your workplace smells like a cursed forest fire. You tried that once, just once, still have the singe mark on your collarbone. Now you stick to the greasy flicker of a candle and hope nothing breathes too close. Tool maintenance is its own side quest. You've had entire evenings where your job wasn't even mining. It was just hammering your tools back into shape, using a rock as an anvil, and your frustration as fuel. It's like being a blacksmith without any of the flair or glory. Just a guy in the dark, trying to convince a bent pickaxe to straighten up and fly right. Historians still argue whether medieval mining technology truly evolved between the 11th and 15th centuries, or just limped along the way your pickaxe does, awkwardly and without much thought. Some say mining hubs in Bohemia and Saxony pioneered more refined hammers and even pulley systems, but in your world you haven't seen anything more advanced than a rope and bucket. You use your body as leverage, your weight as pressure. Everything is manual, everything hurts. You've wrapped your hands in old cloth to stave off the blisters. Doesn't help. The cloth gets soaked with sweat and grit, then grinds into your palms like sandpaper. You try to remember when your fingers didn't feel swollen, cracked, or bruised. Can't. And don't get too attached to your gear. Tools often go missing, borrowed, misplaced, or quietly taken during the night shift by someone desperate to get paid. There's no lockbox, no check-in system. Your pick is your lifeline, but only if you can keep your hands on it. Every now and then, an overseer comes down to inspect the shafts. He carries a lantern, wears leather boots, and probably hasn't touched a pickaxe in years. He tuts at your progress, mutters something about quotas, and vanishes up the ladder without ever lifting a stone. You'd trade your boots for his coat, honestly, not that he'd give it up, even if you offered your soul with it. Your shoulders ache, your legs tremble, and your ears ring with every clang of metal against rock. Still, you work, because if you don't meet your daily haul, you might not get paid. The tunnel ahead exhales a low, groaning rush of stale air that brushes past your cheek like the sigh of something ancient and buried. You pause, pickaxe still in hand, heart ticking loud in your chest. You've been in this mine for months now, maybe years, but that sound always makes your body tense like a cornered animal. You step forward anyway, because down here the mine never sleeps, and you're not paid to listen, you're paid to dig. The walls of the tunnel close in tighter with every meter. You duck instinctively, now without thinking. The beams overhead creak like old bones, thick with rot. Some of them are splintered, the wood bowed beneath pressure it wasn't meant to hold. Your torch's glow licks across damp stone streaked with black veins of iron, or something that only pretends to be. You're not entirely sure. You never are. Miners talk about the mine like it's alive, not just in metaphor. They say it groans when it's hungry, shudders when it's about to take someone. They swear the wind that snakes through the shafts carries voices, sometimes prayers, sometimes warnings, and sometimes nothing you want to hear. You scoff at the stories, but only in the daylight. Down here in the dark, even you begin to wonder. You pass a section that collapsed last week. The beams still jut at strange angles, buried in a mound of jagged stone. 3 men died there, crushed instantly. The air smells like wet ash. No one's moved the rubble, no one will. The shafts are too unstable, so now it's just part of the mine, a tomb with a path beside it. You cross yourself out of habit just in case. It's not just cave-ins that keep you glancing up at every crack. The ceilings are unpredictable. Some seem sturdy for years, and then one day, boom, dust, wood, screams. Other tunnels breathe, literally. They expand and contract, reacting to temperature or pressure or whatever dark science governs this place. When the mine breathes, you hold yours. Once, a miner named Renko got trapped in a pocket like that. He squeezed through a narrow gap on a dare, just to see if he could, only to have the stone shift and close behind him. It took 12 hours of digging to reach him. By the time they got through, he was alive, but barely. He hasn't spoken since. Still shows up to work, though, just quieter than before. Historians still argue whether medieval miners understood structural support or just hoped the earth stayed polite. Some mine designs show clever bracing, arches carved into stone, support beams placed with care, but others are chaos, tunnels sprawling like veins in a corpse, every direction a potential trap. The difference usually depends on who's financing the mine. If it's a wealthy noble or a bishop's pocket project, you might get decent supports. If it's just some local lord looking to cash in, expect a shaft barely wider than your shoulders and a ceiling held up with optimism and rotten pine. There's a part of the mine you've only heard about, the deep runs, supposedly so far down it takes nearly an hour to reach the bottom by ladder. No air flows there, no candles stay lit. Some say the stone bleeds in places. You've never gone, you don't want to. Instead, you keep walking. Your foot slips on something slick, moss maybe, and you stumble into the wall, narrowly avoiding a cracked support beam. You steady yourself, then curse softly. You're bleeding again, this time from your elbow. But what's one more scar, right? You reach your team, a few gaunt, soot-covered men with eyes like wolves and expressions like cracked statues. No one speaks, just nods. That's the rule down here. Silence keeps you alive. Noise attracts attention. From what no one says. The ground shifts slightly under your feet. A faint tremble, like something heavy just exhaled deep beneath your boots. Everyone freezes. One man lifts his torch higher, scanning the ceiling. A few pebbles fall. You back away. A long pause. Then nothing. You don't exhale until someone else does first. Then work resumes as if nothing happened, but your spine doesn't forget the shiver. Over lunch, such as it is, you sit on a damp rock and chew tough bread with missing teeth. You swap stories with the others in hushed voices. Someone brings up the old shaft collapse in Hronsky Benyadik, where the ceiling caved in so fast it buried a crew of 8 in seconds. No one even knew where to start digging. They just sealed it off. A priest came, said a prayer, then they kept mining. It's not all grim. One guy swears he found a silver vein last week, pure gleaming silver just waiting behind a wall of slate. But by the time he returned with tools, the shaft had flooded. No sign of it since. He shrugs. The mine gives, the mine takes. One of the older men mentions a tale from Bohemia of a tunnel that led to a chamber with walls so smooth they looked carved by something inhuman. The designs etched in the stone were like writing, but not Latin, not German. You're sweating, but it's cold. Not just cold like a draft from above. cold like the walls themselves are stealing your warmth, like the very stone is greedy for something more than your labor. You exhale slowly, watching your breath mist in the thin light. You can feel it in your throat too, the roughness, the scratch, the beginning of that all too familiar burn. The air in the mine is worse than stale, it's poisoned by slow degrees. Every breath you take tastes like ash and dust and something metallic you can't quite place. You've grown used to it, of course, just like the rats and the mildew and the constant dread. But your lungs, they're filing complaints you can't hear yet. Give it time. The miners joke about stone cough. It's not funny, really. More like a whisper that turns into hacking fits and ends with a man coughing up blood into his shirt and blaming it on the weather. The word silicosis won't exist for another few hundred years, but your body already knows it by name. You wipe the sweat off your brow, only to smear it with a layer of grime. The walls sweat too, dripping mineral-rich water down in slow trails that leave rust-colored streaks on the stone. Every droplet that falls seems harmless, but you've seen what it does to the beams. Rot, decay, collapse. Everything down here wants to crumble, including you. Then there's the mold. Oh yes, you've seen it. Black patches that blossom like bruises on the ceiling, spongy growth that blooms on damp cloth or the backs of old boots. Some say it's harmless, others say it creeps into your lungs while you sleep. You don't know who's right, and honestly, it doesn't matter. The sneezing, the wheezing, the eyes that won't stop itching, that's real enough. You pass a side shaft where a few men are working without torches, just little fat lamps that sputter more than they burn. One of them waves you away, coughing hard into a rag he keeps folded in his shirt. You glance once, and it's red. You don't stop. He doesn't ask you to. The longer you work here, the more you come to understand the difference between sick and dying. One's just a pause in your rhythm, the other ends your shift forever. Historians still argue whether medieval miners were aware of the long-term effects of dust inhalation. Some point to old charters that mention black lung or references to stone rot in the chest, while others believe these were spiritual metaphors, sicknesses of sin, not science. Either way, no one's sending a doctor down here. You duck into a lower tunnel, closer to the waterline now. The humidity is brutal. Your breath fogs instantly, and the stone glistens like it's sweating with you. The worst part, you can't stop breathing. You need the air, no matter how bad it is, and there's no fresh supply coming in. No ventilation shafts, no fans, just damp cloth over your mouth if you're lucky, and most days you're not. There's a trick some miners use, a bit of vinegar on cloth pressed over the mouth and nose, cuts the smell, doesn't cut the danger. You tried it once, it burned worse than the mold. Back to damp sleeves and prayers. You spot a torch lying on the ground ahead, still burning, still sputtering, but no sign of its owner. You call out, nothing. You listen, just the soft wheeze of the mine's breath and the drip drip of a leak in the ceiling. You keep moving. Some say the deeper levels hold gases, pockets of noxious air that will knock you out before you realize what's happening. A whiff of sulfur, a hint of rot, then black. You've seen it happen. A man named Jorek went down one day with a full sack and a bright torch. Didn't come back. They found him slumped against the wall, eyes open, face peaceful, like he was dreaming. They sealed that tunnel, marked it with an iron X, but the gas
darkness doesn't respect boundaries. It slips through cracks, hides in corners, waits for a slow breath. And let's not forget the smoke when fires are used to crack stone. More on that nightmare later. The smoke lingers for days, trapped in the tunnels like a ghost you can't exorcise. The black soot clings to your clothes, your skin, your lungs. It turns your coughs into growls. You blow your nose and it's black for a week. You laugh because what else can you do? One miner, old Baron, swears by chewing tree bark soaked in lard, claims it coats his throat and keeps the dust from settling. He's still hacking like a collapsing bellows, but sure, maybe he's onto something, or maybe he just likes the taste. Your own throat feels tight now. You pause, lean against a cool slab of stone and breathe through your mouth. Bad idea. Tastes like coal and regret. You cough twice, 3 times. The second one hurts. You blink. A shadow shifts in your peripheral vision. Probably a trick of the light, or not. You shake it off. You're tired. The air down here makes hallucinating a minor inconvenience. You resume digging. The pick in your hand feels heavier than usual, or maybe you just feel lighter.